The prospect of open exploration and free roaming is certainly enticing, but some games make a mockery of the idea.
I'll spuddy you!
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 worst open world games. Here, we're taking a look back at games that do the greatest disservice to the open world genre. Also, No Man's Sky escaped this list, as while it was certainly a controversial game, it's by no means the worst we've seen. Number 10, Fuel. This was a conceptually intriguing project that ultimately couldn't help but fall flat. Set in a post-apocalyptic virtual world, more than 14,000 square kilometers in size, Fuel promised free roaming of said massive area in between races, with the odd storm and constantly shifting day-night cycle to boot. Alas, the big problem with such a big open world was that it was a very big empty open world. We'd say just enjoy the racing, but the way that the AI racers seem to give up right near the end of the race makes us think otherwise. It just goes to show, a bigger game doesn't always mean a better game. Number 9, Two Worlds. Fantasy storytelling and action role-playing? How exactly do you mess up such a time-honored combination? Well, as it turns out with the case of Two Worlds, the answer lies in execution. Its promise of open-ended character customization and free exploration of the realm of Antilure cannot compensate for the game's technical incompetence. Bugs abound in the game world. Character animations are clearly limited, and the voice acting, done by the developers rather than by paid actors, is amateur at best.
You will bleed to death.
'Tis just a flesh wound.
Just a flesh wound.
There's a shabbiness and incompleteness to the whole production that ends up crippling whatever good qualities it does possess. Fun fact, there was a lot of hype building up to this game, with the director claiming it would put Elder Scrolls Oblivion to shame. Yeah, no. Number 8, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. While the game adaptation of Spider-Man 3 certainly has its problems, this is a far worse licensed product. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 loosely ties into the film of the same name, merging an open-world setting with countless plot threads in the hopes of crafting a cohesive storyline.
Vigilantes like Spider-Man only make the problem worse.
If the prospect of slapdash narrative weren't bad enough, the game also suffers due to poor controls and an offering of rather unimpressive one-sided activities. Add in issues like frame dropping and poor lighting, and what results is an all-around uninspiring game experience.
You might be able to make a deal with D.A. Harper for protective custody, if you help stop this gang war.
Number 7, Driver 3, or Driv 3er.
Change of plan. The locals are hostile and there's too many of them. Get me out now.
Driv 3er spent 3 years in development, with its developer, Reflections Interactive, trying to carefully replicate the cities of Miami, Nice, and Istanbul in then exquisite detail. It's a shame, then, that their efforts resulted in a game with flimsy driving controls, AI opponents that constantly outperformed the player, and a whole plethora of bugs and glitches. Worse yet, only a handful of paths in each open world hub were useful for mission completion, eliminating any incentive to explore or engage further with the setting. If the game's sketchy quality weren't bad enough, its reputation was further muddled by the Driver 3 Gate controversy, which stemmed from accusations that the game's publisher, Atari, gave early access in exchange for good reviews. Yeesh. Number 6, Superman Returns. The Man of Steel may well be weeping if he were to see how things turned out here. Superman Returns, based on the eponymous film, tries to offer players the thrill of flying through Metropolis at blistering speeds and making use of Superman's more iconic powers. While that may sound like a fun encapsulation of the character, the surrounding game is anything but. From its brevity to the triteness of the side missions, from its lackluster fighting to the mundane visual design, everything about Superman Returns feel like a half measure with a severe creative miscalculation. It really shouldn't be this hard to build an entertaining experience around a man who can shoot eye lasers and fly into Earth's atmosphere, right? Number 5, Destroy All Humans, Path of the Furon.
I love you.
Speaking of games with good ideas but terrible results, here's one about aliens in the 70s. Path of the Furon picks up a decade after the events of Destroy All Humans 2, with the latest clone of Cryptosporidium setting out to investigate the return of once extinct alien warriors.
I'm ready. Teach me how to beat him.
You are far from ready.
It's an interesting premise, undermined by the game's repetitive missions, glitch-filled play, rather simplistic visuals, and a script that never quite rises above cringe-worthy stereotypes and really low-grade humor. Equal parts embarrassing in quality and unpleasant in tone, this is one close encounter no one ever wants to have.
Good. A day without rubbing out goons is like a day without sunshine.
Number 4, Homefront: The Revolution. A reboot of the Homefront series, The Revolution tackles the absurd prospect of a North Korean occupation of the US city of Philadelphia. The game allows you to explore the city in between missions, with weapon customization and scavenging offered as some semblance of variety. Unfortunately, the promise of those mechanics is thoroughly ruined by the game's poor mechanical and creative design, making the world less than appealing to engage with.
Watch the guard.
Yeah, don't get stepped on.
Players can look forward to a paint-by-the-numbers storyline with uninspiring characters, uncomfortable gunplay and stealth elements, and a laundry list of frustrating technical issues. That this is also an aesthetically underwhelming game with no visual flair or energy should not be surprising either. Number 3, Infestation: Survivor Stories. Oh, how the shame just built up in regards to this one. Originally known as The War Z, this open-world survival game had more than a little in common with the DayZ mod. It relied upon similar elements: food and thirst management, combating zombies, working with other players to survive, but in a much less refined manner. Among other issues, reviewers noted its plentiful bugs, the ease with which hacking could occur, the absence of promised features like a leveling system, and its reliance on microtransactions. And let's not even get into the legal troubles with the US Patent and Trademark Office or those problematic remarks made by the game's producer. Number 2, Day 1, Gary's Incident.
The frame rate is awful. It is dreadful. It drops below 30 very regularly, and this isn't even with all of the options enabled.
Oh goodness, where to begin? This first-person shooter puts us in the shoes of Gary Friedman. Yes, we do see what you did there. A cargo aircraft pilot who ends up in the Amazon and discovers a lost civilization. Resorting to tired cliches in its establishment of plot and setting, Gary's Incident has the larger issue of being incompetently made. Weapons fired in close quarters can just straight up fail to harm enemies. The world is riddled with textureless surfaces, and the AI for enemies is blissfully ignorant of sounds and actions. Apparently, the developer didn't take criticism very well and filed a copyright claim to take down Total Biscuit's video. Yeesh.
This is a full release. It is not early access. This is not a beta, guys. Seriously, I am not lying to you. And this is after about 3 patches.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Number 1, Raven's Cry.
I kept my end of the bargain. Now it's your turn.
Everything that can go wrong has gone wrong here. First released under the name of Raven's Cry, this pirate-themed sandbox game established itself right out of the gate to be a subpar game. It suffered from game-ending crashes and was clearly dated in terms of visual design. Digging any deeper, however, reveals a content-light product plagued by glitches, undermined by its unwieldy combat mechanics, and it's just atrocious in the realms of writing and voice acting.
I seem to remember saving yours a few times back there.
Facing overwhelming negativity, the game was eventually rebranded as Vendetta: Curse of Raven's Cry, only for this version to also get lambasted in reviews and eventually be pulled from sale. Oops. Do you agree with our list? What do you feel are the worst open world games? For more liberating top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
Aren't you lucky? See you on the other side.